You probably don't know this, but enkidu freaking love money. Welcome back, builders. We are going to be starting a new tradition, I suppose. We are going to have a pre-game show of the nation that we're going to play on the following stream. And the reason I want to do that is this is such a complex game, and there are so many smart people who play it. There is no way for any one person to know everything. I want to come out with an episode. This is not intended to be a guide for a nation. I'm going to give an overview and my thoughts about the nation. We're going to look at the units, the lore, and some different pretender builds that might be usable. And I'm going to show off, depending on the nation, a couple ideas, or maybe the one I think I'm going to go with. And then this episode's going to come up, and it's going to have a couple days where people can comment on it, can, if they're feeling it, test some of the things, give some feedback. And I'll review that before the stream and maybe change my mind. Maybe I can be convinced that, oh, hey, this other thing would be cooler to see. Or somebody will come up with something that will just be more interesting or another angle I didn't think about. So I think this will be valuable to have some dialogue about some of these nations. With Dominion 6 just coming out, there's not a ton of nation guides out. A lot of things are fine to look at Dominions 5 for and just kind of think, okay, well, looking at this, knowing the changes in 6, this is what I think it's going to be. But I feel like there's some value just having some discussions about these. So, long preamble for this first one aside, we are going to be looking at the first city. Is a warm plain inhabited by enkidus, large, hairy, wild men with horns and unkempt hair. Once upon a time, all enkidus lived in the wild, frolicking with feral beasts. But when the enkidus met with the Avim, some enkidus adopted their ways of life. Now there are 3 enkidu tribes. The members of the first tribe live in pastoral lives and are led by shamans of remarkable power. The second one is a ferocious swamp-dwelling hunter-gatherer society led by the headhunters and bone readers. The third tribe is the ones who have adopted the Avite way of life, of agriculture and metalworking. It is they who founded Eridu, the first city. In the city, a great temple was built, and the kings of Eridu were inaugurated as priest-kings and rulers of the young nation. In the cities of where metalworking is common, medium and heavy infantry is raised. On the plains and in the swamps of the nation, nomadic enkidus gather and form quickly levied raiding parties. In the swamps of near Eridu, live ancient dragonkin known as the Mashusus. They are benevolent and powerful beings sacred to the enkidus. This is pretty neat. It is inspired by Enkidu, who is a character from the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's I believe, Sumerian tale, thousands of years old. We have recovered most of it, but some parts we have no written record of. If you've never read it, I strongly suggest it. It stands up as a story to this day. It is pretty good. This nation draws a lot of inspiration from that. Gilgamesh was the king there. He had a friend named Enkidu, and the story is propelled by their relationship and what happens to them. In-game, the Avites are giant/angels of Hinnom, are some of those Avites, and those angels kind of taught the people civilization. So in Dominions, the Enkidus had met the Avites and kind of learned some of that from them, and then they've started their own civilization. As for nation features, we have large, can recruit anywhere shaman and light infantry. We can recruit special units in the swamps, and we prefer heat scales +1. For our military, we have Enkidu infantry and sacred Mushusu dragons. For magic, we have nature, earth, water, air, and some death. Priests, we have strong priests, which are really good. We have 2 holy 3s. We're good at recalling a dead god. When we recall a god, they don't lose magic skills. That's pretty important. Normally, if you have to recall your god, there's a decent chance that they're going to lose magic. We do not have that issue. We also have sacred Mushusus. For scales and blesses, our order limit is +1 and our heat limit is +1. And our buildings are fortified cities. These are pretty good infrastructure. As you can see here, we have a very large unit roster, but it's not, it is large, but it's not as complicated as it looks. Basically, over here we have the city dwellers, this group here. These guys that have kind of the, I don't know, bones hanging off what they're wearing come from the swamps. So these are the swamp dwellers. And the guys wearing just the furs are the recruit anywhere non-city units, essentially. These guys over here are, they're similar to us. I think they're technically, yeah, they're not enkidus. They are kalulas, which are like an aquatic race that we've had cultural exchange with, and we've allied after they lost to the other underwater nations, and we kind of took them in and helped them out somewhat. So there's a lot of different facets to this nation. I think we're going to start with the troops down here, our city troops. Mainly these two guys. Our biggest problems are thus. We are size 5, so only 2 to a square, and we can't fit anything else in there. If we enlarge, it's 1 to a square, so really bad. And we don't wear helmets. Like, it just crimps our style. The horns are cool. The swept back hair is cool. Helmets get, like your beard gets stuck in them. We have not decided that that is worth it. Unfortunately, that means that even a humble slinger is actually very dangerous to us. Now, luckily, we have 26 HP. So even though we don't have helmets, it's unlikely we will be one-shot by an arrow or a sling stone. So we do have that going for us. Our protection's a little misleading here because that takes into effect your total protection with helmet, body armor, and natural armor. So if you look here, our total protection for body is actually 11, but our head is only 2, and that's our natural protection. So heavy, like medium heavy type troops in the early age. We do lots of damage. We're very strong. 16 strength is great. So good HP, good strength. For this troop specifically, a slightly above average attack skill, slightly above average defense skill. A bronze hatchet with 12 attack and 21 damage is very good. Decent for breaking shields. Probably will one-shot most human troops. Our other basic troop is this guy, very similar, not quite as well trained, uses a spear. Also of note on the Guard, they have city defense bonus, so they count as extra defenders when you're inside a fort trying to hold up the walls. Our main sacred would be the Enkidu's Chosen. They're essentially the axe infantry that we have. They have a halberd, which is a little bit better than the other guy's armor. Still no helmet. They have bodyguard, so that's okay. I do like bodyguard more in 6 than I did before, because I do find there's a lot more reasons you'd want one. They're sacred, of course, but they're not great. They don't have multiple attacks. They're not super, survivable. You still could only have 2 to a cell. I don't think blesses are particularly good on these guys, unfortunately. We do also have the Mushusu. There's a problem with the Mushusu, though. You can only have 1 per turn when you're recruiting them. Despite the fact that this is interesting, you could do something with this. Size 8 is interesting. He has fear, he has poison resist, decent amount of HP, so you could throw some regen on him, multiple attacks, low encumbrance. Very interesting, could be useful, but I don't think a heavy bless is really worth it. You can see up here, limited recruitment, 1 per turn. That's where you'll see that on some units. They're also very expensive. And you probably don't know this, but enkidu freaking love money. We will take every penny you have and spend it. Because all of our troops, 19 gold's not horrible for this troop, but we're going to need a lot of troops. We are what most people would consider a scales nation, meaning we use troops to expand. We still have good units, or good mages, good sacred stuff up here, but we're not going to be able to expand with just sacreds. These guys don't trample. If they trampled, maybe we could get away with it, but we don't. So we're going to need a lot of bodies. And luckily, these guys aren't horrible. Recruiting these in town, 14 resources, 13 recruitment, not too bad. Outside of our cities, we also have this guy, and this guy's really good. Enkidu Archer. Now, you might look at him and say, like, okay, well, he's not well armored. What's so good? Well, he's got a longbow, so decent range. Remember that the damage for bows was changed to half wielder strength instead of a third, and he's got 15 strength just out of the box, so that's pretty good. If he gets in melee, he does have a dagger at 10 attack with 17 piercing damage, so not good. You don't want him in melee, but they'll get a few kills as they get run over. Unfortunately, they're size 5 still, so still only 2 to a square. That's going to make buffing them kind of hard. Normal precision, but you can recruit these guys outside of your forts. So for 7 resources and 9 recruitment, even a bad province can get 2 or 3 of them, and better provinces, you could get up to like 10 per province with these guys. So we're definitely going to want some of these. Also of note, when we look at mages, we have pretty good nature access, and we have a bow that can do actual damage. So the benefit of having flaming arrows is you just have to hit and then you get the fire roll. The problem with poison arrows is you have to actually do a point of damage to get the poison roll. Well, we have a pretty good chance of doing some damage, so the poison's pretty decent for them. And we'll look at that again when we talk about magic paths and thinking about how we want to do our research. Also down here, we have, these guys are if you have buff spells for them, they'd be better. They just have 7 protection, so not that much worse than our city guys, but I would prefer having the other guys. It'll help protect against our own archer fire. It'll help keep them alive longer. But we have this guy here. So this is a non-fort swamp recruit. He's got a stone spear and fur, so but he has berserk and stealth. And we do have stealthy commanders. So these guys are pretty good about doing some sneak attacks. Like a 17 javelin, or excuse me, a 17 damage javelin at range 15, so you'll probably get both throws off before you connect and then go berserk. And you have enough HP that you'll survive. You'll go berserk most likely. Morale's not the best, but again, you're going to berserk, so it doesn't matter. So these guys are pretty interesting. So if you have a spot where you can recruit them effectively, these guys are pretty good. You could lead them with this guy, who is essentially one of those, but a leader. He's got berserk +2, decent. You also get Enkidu Headhunter. So another one where it could lead those troops. What's interesting about him is he gets the Skull Club. And that's a 13 attack, 23 magic damage blunt weapon. So this is interesting. I could see maybe throw some armor on him and maybe like a ring of regen and let him just be kind of like a light thug. Maybe lead around some of those stealthy troops. That could be good. Underwater, I would say this is the more interesting guy. He basically just has some armor and a spear. This is him minus the armor. Underwater, they're not the best, but they are aquatic troops, so they're better than bringing amphibians down under the seas to fight. All right, let's go up and let's look at commanders. We get a Recruit Anywhere Scout. He has the standard stealth. Otherwise, nothing particularly of note about him, but nice that you can just recruit him everywhere, so you'll have plenty of scouting. Enkidu Elder. This guy's pretty interesting. So he starts old, so not going to really want to thug him or anything. His morale himself isn't great. His leadership's okay. He has Tax Collector, which lets you collect tax even if you couldn't trace a line back to a fort. So if you're raiding, maybe bring this guy with you, and he can help you get some of the money from that. I mean, I don't know how great that is. His next one is Defense Organizer, though. So every turn, he'll just add 1 Providence defense to wherever he's at, up to 19. So that's kind of nice. I like that. I tend to put 6 and then leave it at 6 unless there's a reason to do otherwise. But I like to have these guys build my forts because they'll be sitting there for several turns and they can just build up the Providence defense for free. They're really cheap. They're only 20 gold, 1 recruitment point, and they can lead around a lot of troops. Unfortunately, they're -1 inspirational. I guess like nobody wants to hang around with the Tax Collector. So not good at leading the troops in battle, but he can move around plenty, which is nice because we have a lot of non-fort recruitment we're going to be doing. And as he's just shuffling around, he can just increase province defense just here and there. So we will definitely get some of these guys. Our basic commander, unfortunately, is 75. So no special formations, no bonus squad morale. It should be noted down here, our base morale, 12, 11, isn't great. Like, I don't like that. I like 12, 13, or higher for troops. So if he has to lead troops, that's not going to be the best. Now, comboing with him, though, we have the enkidu Hornblower. This guy is a standard. A standard basically gives the group that they're in +1 morale. And these guys are doubly nice because their combat speed is 10, whereas 12 for our axe guy and 12 for our spear. So generally, they'll kind of lag behind and not be in the front row, which is good because he's only wearing furs. We're going to want a few of these guys in with our troops just to give them that +1 morale. So that would at least take us to neutral if they have to lead them with either the old dude or our commander. Otherwise, nothing too remarkable. 1 turn to recruit, so he doesn't take that long. You do have to get him out of a fort, so that's not great because we have some good mages that we would much rather prefer recruiting out of forts. Next up, we have the Gala. This one is interesting. So she's a spell singer. Spell singers take more time to cast, which I believe is 50%, but they also take far less fatigue. Spell singers have no effect on divine spells. So if she's casting, she does it slowly, but she also doesn't rack up as much fatigue. So if you have something that's nature 1 that you want to cast, which for us might be web or vine arrow or entangle or heal. This is actually a nation that could actually take advantage of heal. We'll look at that when we get to spells. She's okay. I mean, priest level 1 could do some minor blessing. Nothing too great there. That does make her sacred, obviously. So for 7 research, she only is 42 gold a year. So my 10 gold per research point, she's okay at efficiency. Her problem is that's not a great combat mage. So if you're just going for efficiency, she would be what to get. But if you need firepower, it's not here. It's just not here. She does have the 19 HP, so probably will survive an arrow hit. Not too bad. She's not super expensive or anything. Being that she is a mage and a priest, what I do like about her is she can go to a new fort and build the infrastructure, the lab and the temple, and I can just do it with 1 unit. And then she can stay there and do a little preaching till like the domain's flipped at least, or just sit there and research, whatever. So pretty handy. Next up we have I think it's Salme, or Salmi. Very similar, except for she also gets water magic. So moss, is it moss skin? Moss, whatever the spell is that's water nature. We'll look at that when we get spells up. She can cast that. Otherwise, 9 research, but now we're up to 56. Whatever, I suppose. She doesn't have the spell singer, so yeah, whatever, kind of. All right, we have the Gudu. The Gudu is really, really good. This is going to be our main combat caster. And you may look at this and say, like, well, what? He's a priest and he's got some random paths? Well, he gets 100% +2 of either air or earth. Both of those are good paths. The air one, maybe a little less. We could use it to do lightning bolt, but I also like to do some of the air buffs for archers. They can definitely do that. They could personal mist form. That can be kind of handy. The earth ones means we could do all the fun earth buffing, and we have good troops that like buffs. So every single one of these guys will be earth 2, and then we can earth power into earth 3, and we can have all the fun that entails. Earth 3 is really that threshold where earth is super, super good. So lots and lots of use out of these guys. Next up we have the Ishib. He is interesting. He's a priest 2. Now, level 2 priests, I think, are much better in Dominion 6 than they were previously. They could do Sermon of Courage, which is handy. They can do their other... What is that called? I can't do it on the screen. Well, there are other level 2 priest spells that might be of use. He comes with 2 water, and he randoms into air, earth, or nature. So a little bit of cross-pathing, something there. I find these guys maybe the least interesting of our lineup. Next, we have the enkidu and the insi. These are cap-only mages. They're slow to recruit. I'm going to look at the insi first. So, not many resources, a lot of money. He wears a crown, so at least he has something on his head, even if it's not great. He has 100 leadership, so now we're talking formations. He also is inspirational, so you're looking at a +2 between your leadership score and inspirational. So he's a good troop leader. I tend to like to get these guys out and lead troops. It can be difficult, though, because at 425 gold, that's a lot. And we do want to be spending a lot of foreign recruit, a lot of fort recruiting. So money is going to be tight, always, I think. For paths, he comes in with 2 water, 1 nature, holy 3 just out of the box, and he gets an air, a water, an earth, or a nature. I think of those, the earth is nice because he could give himself some stronger self buffs. Nature 2 is pretty handy. There's some good stuff there. Water, cross pathing with some of that. Water 3 is less interesting. Maybe I haven't really done much with it in 6, so maybe we can explore that a little bit. For research efficiency, he's terrible. 170 gold a year for only 13. He does have the supply bonus because of being nature, so there's that. I do tend to find I have trouble with supplies on this nation because we are going to be chugging around a lot of troops, and we're in early age where supply just isn't super duper high. Last of our city recruits is the enkidu. She is like priestess queen and consort. So there used to be an event, and I couldn't get it to proc in my test games, where you needed to have an enkidu and an insi in your capital because they have this fertility rite where they get together and have a kid every year in spring, and that ensures like our civilization prospers and is fertile and everything. So I'm going to assume that event still exists, and I'm going to try to keep one of each in my capital and see if we can get it to proc. See if it plays with maybe growth scales is kind of what I'm thinking it's going to do, but I don't know if they went in and like updated that between 5 and 6. Otherwise, she's actually a pretty good caster. She comes in with Earth 2, Nature 1, Holy 3, and then can random into the sames. So you could get an Earth 3, just basic. So that could get pretty high with Earth power. Otherwise, yeah, same cross paths we've basically been looking at. She is inspirational +2, so she is a more morale bonus leader for that, but her leadership's only 10. So she ends up kind of washing that out. You're probably not leading troops around with her, unless it's like really desperate times or something. I don't know. But still decent. We'll probably get a couple. It's nice having those holy 3s, so we'll have easy time claiming thrones. We do have water, so we can put a ring of water breathing and get underwater to claim thrones, which is super important. I'm going to segue that into our water troops, and we're going to come back to these guys. So if we can get underwater, we have leader guy, we have priest 2 with some water magic. Water magic is really good underwater, so that isn't as bad as it looks. We have the Kululu Sage. This guy is actually pretty interesting. 2 water natively, and then 100% chance to get randoms, which include Astral, which we don't have on anybody else. So that could break us into some Astral. He also has Adept Researcher 4. So for 212 gold, which is not little, we will end up with a decent Researcher. He won't be as efficient, but he'll be more of a bulk. So I could see getting some of these if we can get underwater. We can build forts underwater, unless that's changed between now and 6, or between 5 and 6. So that could be very interesting. We also have a Kaliltu Queen, and she's just kind of like a diet version of the stuff that's above water. So 1 water, 1 nature. There's some interesting underwater nature stuff to do. We could swarm with her. She does have priest level 2, so she can discern courage. These aren't super duper interesting other than the Sage, other than the fact that we actually have water troops, so we could make a play for underwater if somebody else is down there, or we could just take it for ourselves. The last stream, we were finishing up Ulm, and we had to do a lot of underwater fighting, which was uncomfortable for Ulm, that we would not have that problem. Once we get down there, we will be fine. All right, then let's look at our non-fort people. So we have an enkidu chief. He moves people around. I guess of note, he is a Beastmaster +1, so he does +1 morale to beasts. Here or there. We do have some unique spells that summon some animals, so we'll look at that. Could be useful for ferrying those guys around. The hunter we talked about, he's the berserking leader. I quite like him. The headhunter we talked about has the magic weapon, quite like him. Then these two dudes. These guys are really important. So the enkidu bone reader can be recruited in non-fort swamps. So in my first test game, I got an amazing swamp location, and these guys were great. So they come in with Earth Death, which we haven't had on anything else, and we can random into Death 2. So pretty decent. With Death 2, we could summon specters. I think we can build the Skull Staff at Death 2, so we could get ourselves up to 3 and start climbing Death pretty decently. Quite good. Quite good. They're also still stealthy. They have fortune tellers, so maybe help avoid some events. Although you're going to want these guys out doing stuff, not sitting at home researching, because they're bad at it. They're really bad at it. They cost 136 gold a turn, or a year, excuse me, for only 7. You do not want that. You definitely want this guy out doing things, but he is good. Like some Skelly spam could be useful. Other death spells that are available could be good. He does have Death Water, which I believe we can do some invulnerability shenanigan buffing. I'll have to double check that. And finally, this guy, the Enkidu Shaman. So note here, he can be recruited in all non-fort provinces. So we just need a lab because he's not sacred. He has 2 earth, 3 nature, and can random into either one of those or water, and a very small chance for some death. This dude is huge. This is like a pan. He is a strong, like this is an early age mage right here. Now, he's not slow to recruit technically. He only needs 2 points. But because we can't recruit him in forts, it's still going to take us 2 turns to recruit him. Notice also how expensive he is. 385 gold. He's not sacred, so he costs 308 per turn. Excuse me again. Per year. That's very pricey. But you are getting what you pay for. We could do mass protection for bark skin. We could do the big earth buffs on people. We could scale up to do relief. We could do howl. All the big natures. We could get this guy with just a random into a nature and a thistle mace, and he could cast Mother Oak for us. So very powerful mage. Again, he's a Beastmaster, so maybe that's interesting to us. We'll see. I think we're going to be floating a lot of nature gems, so hopefully we can transform those into power. We are going to have to do some nature gem crafting, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So that's our troop lineup. Interesting. We have a decent archer. We have okay frontline troops. We have ways to deal with our low morale, so that's nice. We have a mediocre at best sacred. We have a very limited, interesting sacred. So a lot of good things to see up here. We start with 2 water, 1 earth gem, and we also get 3 nature. So decent gems to be getting. So that's water rings, frost brands, all the nature item goodies, boots, hammers, all kinds of good stuff. Those are great gems that you're going to have. We don't have any crafting bonuses, unfortunately, but I think we're going to be doing a lot of crafting. All right, let's okay that. Let's look at pretenders. I think there's several ways you could go here. You could go with an awake expander. As somebody who doesn't have great sacreds, it's hard to get the ball rolling. You just need a lot of troops, and depending on what your indies are, you can have pretty decent attrition, so that's annoying. So there's definitely something to be said about bringing in an awake expander. So you could do like the white bull would be decent. Also remember, we have the bonus that we don't lose magic paths if we die and have to recall our god. Maybe this would be a good one if you're looking to try an awake expander, like you're a new player, you generally don't do that. You use casters or researchers or immobiles. This would be an okay place to dip your toe in there. It wouldn't be as punishing to have your god die. This guy also, we want money. So remember when we're designing our pretender, things that increase income are of more interest than they normally would be. We natively have +1 heat scale, and we natively have +1 order scale. So ideally, what I'd love to see here is a production bonus, but nobody has it. So my second choice would be either growth or possibly magic. I think those would be pretty good. We do want a lot of spells, and we have decent casters to use them. So magic wouldn't be too bad there. Our magic resist isn't miserable or anything, so if we went 2 magic, it wouldn't like tank us completely on magic resist. We could take a dragon maybe, but the sloth is not good for us. Yeah, various different ones here. You maybe want to try getting into some blood, maybe. That Moloch's interesting, but again, he's turmoil, and we want order, so that's not the greatest. Did it with the snake, again, sloth. So I'm not too certain about those. For the Titan chassis, I do think those are better, and we have some decent ones. We have a lot of astral choices, and we'll see why, but astral is pretty interesting to us. These use the Eastern Titans. I think that's what they are, like the African Titans, which have lots of good ones. So we have, I'm trying to think who's all decent. Anything with growth, I'd be interested in. We're going to look at this guy specifically in a minute. Death, I'm not overly interested in. We already have a way to get underwater. We already have some death access. We already have heat scales, so all the heat guys are less interesting. The Anunnaki of Love and War is kind of a decent chassis. She's a combat caster. She comes in with some lions every fight. Do note, though, she only has 4 protection. I mean, it's literally a naked winged lady, so be careful how you're using her in combat. But I could see, she starts at home, gets some research done. Once you have some self-buffing, you could Mist Form, Cloud Trapeze, Iron Skin, Temper Flesh, Personal Regen. Like, there's tons of stuff you can do here. But she's definitely not going to be like a turn 2 expanding monster. She does have the Awe, so that does help her quite a bit. So an interesting one there. For the Immobiles, I think you could go with them. You do have Holy Threes, so claiming thrones isn't going to be that hard. None of these jump out at me. Maybe there's something interesting to do with glamour. The blood, I don't think this is going to be a great blood nation. We already have decent earth access, so not the most interesting. We already have order also, so these would not help us get higher order. We already have heat, so that doesn't help us. So that kind of leaves us with the Oracle, with the Statue of Beginnings, or the God Block. Excuse me, the Statue of Beginnings also is order, so he's not even that good. So I'm not entranced with any of those. And then, of course, you have your Dominion 1 guys, and we do have a couple special ones. I don't think they're that great. I mean, this guy's an inspiring researcher. Could be something. She's a fortune teller. Could be something. Not in love with those for these guys. So what I am in love with, though, this guy. And I made 2 versions. So the first one I did, Dormant, and the second one was Imprisoned. I found that the Dormant came out too early. I actually didn't have anything for him to do yet. He just sat and researched, and I thought, okay, well, if all he's going to do is research, and we're not a miserable researcher, I might as well imprison him just for an extra 200 points. So you can see here, we've only got 1 design point left over. I'm not burdening myself by leaving points on the table like I've done a couple times. We would go with very high scales. We're taking advantage of our order bonus and our heat bonus, and this guy for the chassis has a growth scale bonus, which we're taking advantage of. So very high domain effects. Income plus 8%, unrest reduction minus 3, recruitment bonus plus 30%, resources plus 39%, extra supplies, very high growth, slightly less events, which we wouldn't mind having events, but we're not taking luck, so it's here or there, plus 2 research, so we can try to hit some of those goals. So very nice scales. I would have liked some higher dominion, but fiddling with it, I would end up with more points left on the table. We took 5 astral, and we have a nation-specific spell we'll talk about here in a second to explain why that's so good. And we took some nature, and we took some earth. This is a guy who's probably going to sit in our capital. Maybe he'd go out and do some high-end casting towards the end of the game. So we're looking mainly to do rituals on him. For the bless with what that gave us, I took Farcaster. All of our mages that we care about from elemental casting, so our non-shamans, can take advantage of that. So that's an extra 50% spell range. So that'll help us get our buffs on the people we want them on. Unbreakable, our mages and our sacreds too have enough HP that they won't die from a single hit. So having some protection from afflictions is nice. And that will also help our Mashusu, which hopefully we'll be able to use some. We're going to need to buff them, I think. I don't think we can just send them out. But they have a lot of HP, and making them not take afflictions will sure be nice. And we took some reinvigoration. These earth ones, basically, I took them because they apply to both our mages and our sacreds if we get to use them. And they were just relatively cheap. I didn't particularly spend to get these. Other things of note, regen is a possibility if you're really wanting to go in on those sacreds, which I'm just not sold on. Also, having more air magic would be useful. I'm actually going to take us out of game, and we're going to look at the Dom Inspector because it's easier to look at our nation spells from there. So hang on tight. Okay, now we are on the Dominion 6 Mod Inspector. If you're not using this website, you definitely should. It is amazing. If you've never used it before, check out my video talking about it and how excited I was that this came up, because this is a great resource. All right, I have it sorted to the First City, national spells only. All of our spells come from Conjuration. So we have the Herd of Buffalo. For 8 nature gems, we can get 5 plus half level of nature buffalo. These are actually pretty decent. Generally, animals aren't the greatest because they're undisciplined. These guys, though, have trample. They're size 6, so they could trample us if they retreat, but part of the trample calculation is your size versus their size, so we're not super vulnerable to that. But more importantly, they have 2 attacks and they go berserk. With enough HP, they won't die. So if we can get them into combat, their morale is actually pretty good, and we have people who have bonuses to lead them. This could be pretty useful. So I quite like these guys for just some extra bulk, and just sending them in. They would take buffs pretty well, so we're already going to be throwing out tons of buffs anyways. So that's interesting, gives us something to spend nature gems on. Next up, we have the Kusar Ikus, which are interesting, but I'm not sure how good. So for 6 earth gems, we would get 2 of these guys. They are sacred. They are magical beatings, and they do have spirit sight. So spirit sight's got way more value than it used to. They're bodyguards, and they have a patrol bonus. They have an interesting weapon that affects undead and demons for extra paralyzed damage. Could be good. I don't know if I'd want to spend turns. I guess it only requires 1 earth, so having just one dude like churning some of these out wouldn't be terrible. Other than that, though, not super exciting. They're usable. We have this guy. This guy's much more interesting. He does require Air 3 to summon, so we do not have that natively. We would probably need to empower one of our Air 2 guys, and then he would just summon these. It would take us to Air 3, though. So from then on, we could just summon Air 3, and we can kind of climb air a bit once we get there. They're sacred. They are flying. They can fly in storms, which is kind of rare. Air 3 is nice. We could do some bigger archer buffs with these guys. They could maybe thug, lightly thug. Maybe they're a little too expensive, although they're not bad. 24 gems for a level 3 mage is a steal. I'd take that on any nation. So these guys are very interesting. We have a native way to get into them, even if it is pricey in gems. Next up, we have these guys. They're pretty interesting. They are flying like, are they actual demons? Maybe they're not actual demons, but flying big sacks of HP birds we can summon. They have breath attacks, 2 different types, plus bites, plus talons. They have good resist, good siege bonus, good patrol bonus. These guys are pretty nice. And 2 water, 2 earth, we definitely can get that. And they only cost 4 water gems. Most of the time, water gems are not the most valuable thing. So again, good summons. I could definitely see using some of these. It is all the way up into Conjuration 7, though. Scorpion Man, unfortunately, we do not have native fire access, so we probably would not be summoning these guys. They are interesting, but since we're not going to be working with them, I don't think we're going to spend time on it. Finally, we have this guy, and this is the reason why I want 5 Astral. If we go all the way up to Conjuration 8, we can summon in this guy. He is almost a Titan chassis. He comes in with 3 air, 3 water, 2 earth, 4 astral, 2 nature, 2 holy. That's a lot of magic paths. And because he's a summon, we're not going to have to be paying any upkeep for a mage this powerful. 3 water plus some buffs takes us into like big water ritual range. Having the air is useful. Again, we want to be kind of buffing ourselves, and this would use astral gems instead of air gems to summon. So very, very good. I like these guys. If we don't have the air gems to do the empowering shenanigans, we could summon one of these guys and then he could summon. So very useful there. No combat spells. We do have an item. It is the headdress of the bull. Not particularly exciting. Gives you +2 strength, but it only has 8 head protection, which I guess 8's better than the 0 we normally have, so take that as you will. You get a buffalo, like, for free. He just hangs out with you. You and your pet buffalo. So, maybe? Like, that'd be interesting maybe on those stealthy raiders, because, like, you could stealth in there and do some light thugging and you'd have a buffalo with you, which goes berserk, so probably would fight to the death. Could be something. I don't know. Not super exciting there. Also, just to show it, yeah, you can check all their paths really easy here. Make sure you've set it to either available or recruitable and national only when you're doing that, so you don't get confused by things you can't actually get. I'm going to take you back into the game here. All right, this is one of my test games, trying out the donut map. Quite liking it, actually. Although it seems to not want to keep generating underground for some reason. This is kind of the end of expansion. In this game, I've made a non-aggression pact with Sarmatia. Their capital's right here. So I had this territory, but an event took it, and then they got it before I got it back. But either way, I've got decent choke point here with them. I've been skirmishing with Vanheim, as seems to be my want. But I wanted to show just a brief little combat here. This is kind of what my expansions look like. Now, this is pretty big, because I'm gearing up for war. I would probably generally not have quite as many archers, and I'd want this many melee, but I wouldn't have them. And then they are being led by one of those Incies. You can see he's done a lot of work. Versus, this isn't super hard or anything, but elephants. And I thought this was just interesting to show, because elephants are nasty, nasty against your expansion parties, generally speaking. But for us, they're not terrible. Like, they're going to squish a few guys, but we're just going to hack these elephants apart. And a lot of our guys will scooch out of the way as they're trying to get stepped on, because we're size 5, and a war elephant is size 9, which is a lot better than just if you're human size at size 3, getting squished on. And here you can see, so they make it to our archers. They do some damage, we do some damage back. It's not great, but it's not pure misery. It takes them a couple hits to kill people. So that's pretty handy. You can see I've got the Hornblowers in here for the morale bonus. He's back here casting buffs. Pretty decent. Pretty decent. We would like to have more magic support, for sure. In this game, I would say this was slightly below average expansion. So we are actually in year 2 spring. So this is like 25 turns. We've got our original capital, 1 fort, 2 fort. I was building one here that got interrupted by that event. So not the greatest. Our forts are very expensive, though. 1,200 gold instead of 1,000, and then the second level is 800 instead of 600, but they're good. Like, we can look here. Lots of supply. Admin is of 40. Yeah, they're good forts. Good forts. So get what you pay for. You probably don't want to spend them too much. You want to be really strategic about them. I've set up some infrastructure here where I've been recruiting Enkidu Shaman. So these are the ones that have to be recruited outside of a fort. You can see just how good those are. I also like that because I found some good indies. I had some Amazons here. Unfortunately, they were Amazons that didn't really get me into any new magic paths, but I can get some Jade Maidens. So having some cavalry will really help us. We don't have any native cavalry, and these guys can just try to sneak around the rear and do some attack, hold and attack rear. And our Bless gives them something. Not the best thing ever. It wasn't made for them, but decent. And you can see out in the wild, let's pick, I think this one's pretty decent. Enkidu Archer, 16 gold, 7 resources, 9 recruitment points. And I've already spent my money for this turn, but you can see I could get quite a few of them here, 3 or 4. I think over here, we get 5 or 6. So tons and tons of archers coming out all around here. And then I've been using my Enkidu Elders to go pick them up. And you'll just see like defense 10, defense 7, 3, 2, 13. So just slowly building up defense for free. As usual, Van has been sailing across and skirmishing with me over here. And it's super duper annoying because I've got my main forces over here to fight him. So apparently I just hate sailing, so that's a thing. But yeah, that's been really annoying. So I'm trying to secure my coast so he can't do that. And then I've got 1 big army, 2 big armies. I'm going to try to grab another throne before I push forward. So that brings me to, this is the mages I managed to get. I've got a few outside searching. I've got a couple shamans. These are kind of new recruits that are coming in, outside searching. I've got maybe 40% of my area searched, decent gem income. At my capital, this is all I've got though. So I'm light on casters. Now note, this is year 2. The end of year 2, and this is my research. I've got like 1 over here. I've got like 1 or 2 over here. So research is not the greatest. That's why I want that magic scale, just to help us a little bit. You can see, so she's got research 9 for 42. I think that's decent. That's decent. We haven't got a ton done. We've got enchantment, conjuration, and some construction. So the research has been slower than I thought it was going to be. I've been trying to go and get Serpent Fang arrows. Of note for that, it is sooner than flame arrows. You get it a whole level earlier, and it is the same size. So there's an advantage there. It does the 20 plus. So for 1 nature gem, 20 plus size is pretty good. We're going to need 2 or 3 guys casting this, I would say, at least. But our archers are pretty decent with it. We also get True Shot Warriors at that level, which we do have mages who can cast, and that gives precision plus 4. So in our Ohm game, we quite enjoyed the 12 precision Steel Maidens. Well, these are going to be 14 precision longbows that are poison. They're pretty good. They're pretty good when you can get that buff up and running. We also pick up just lots of other decent spells on the way. Of note, I want to call out Heal. Normally Heal's garbage because you're either dead or you're so crippled by the 90% of your HP you took, doesn't matter. Well, we actually can take several hits before we die. And Heal heals 30 HP, which is like a full heal for our troops. It says area of effect 1, so that would heal 2. But then down here it says heals 3 human-sized troops. So I think this is just legacy description. I think it is just 1 square at a time. But yeah, I've seen some times where both my frontline troops in a square were damaged and somebody healed them. Cool. I like that. If I have a nature 1 mage and they're going to waste their turn, I'm more than happy for them to heal as their wasted turn. Other things of note, actually, while we're in here, that enchantment 6 is also of very high interest to us. Wind Guide, so that would help our archers quite a bit, and that would give us entire battlefield, would get +2 perception. So that would be quite handy. We would also get Earthquake Warriors, which is that blunt or slash attacks can stun. I still have not got testing it on this, and I really, really want to. But more importantly, Riches from Beneath. Earth 5 is required to cast it. That's why I took that much Earth on the Pretender. But this gives us extra resources, extra provenance income, and extra mine income. And we love money. Let me tell you, I spend every gold coin every turn. So that would be quite handy. So we're going to be going up this enchantment anyways. On the way, we also would get Strength of Giant Warriors. So against area 20 plus, we can cast that natively. And Weapons of Sharpness. Target slash or piercing attacks deal armor piercing damage. So that would make our really good axes have 50% armor piercing, or our spears have 65% because it does stack with the piercing on the spear. Unfortunately, that's only area effect 1, but it's interesting. And I believe there's a bigger area of effect of that later on. Yeah, Steel Slice Warriors, which we're in range to cast, so we definitely could. Also, because we have those big nature casters, we could do mass regeneration on like our frontline troops. That would be really nice. And we'd also get Serpent Blessing down there. So we'd be able to get poison resistance. So when we were shooting ourselves with our arrows, it would be less of a problem. Enchantment's very good for us. Alteration, because that's the other spot where there's lots of buffs. Evocation, I would probably want to get level 2 so that we would have Lightning Bolt. Rust Mist is also pretty interesting. We use bronze or stone even. So we don't have to worry about hitting ourselves with that. So depending on who we're fighting, that could be of interest. Lightning Bolt would give our air guys something to do if they're not buffing. I probably wouldn't go higher than that, though. At least not early at all. Blade Wind would probably be the other one, but we don't wear helmets, and I tend to find Blade Wind is not good for your health if you don't wear a helmet. So that might not be out. Conjuration. Early level 3 is nice. It gets us both Summon Earth Power and Herd of Buffalo. So that's something I'm interested in casting. Summon Bog Beasts would also give us, I believe they're amphibious. So that would give us something that could help us get underwater. Same with Sea Lions. Help us get underwater. We could do Call of the Wild, although that's maybe a little sketchy on how useful it is. Elementals, if it comes to it, that we need to pop those. So tons of things there. I do think that's a decent one to go for somewhat early. So those are my opening thoughts here. I'm really interested to see if you guys think that Pretender will be interesting. I know I spent all my points because I only got one left. But if you think maybe Imprisoned is too much, or maybe you think you have a better, more interesting build. Maybe you want to try focusing in on these sacred somehow. Maybe you've got a trick up your sleeve that makes them really, really good. Or some like bless that makes these guys super good. I don't know though. 1 per turn makes that a really hard sell, and it is cap only too. If there's 1 per turn per fort, that would also make them much better. But unfortunately, they are not. Please leave me some comments here. If you're super into Dominions, maybe do a little bit of test games yourself and let me know what you've discovered in your games. I'm going to be watching that feedback very closely, and I will take all that into account for when we are streaming on our next stream, and hopefully that will make it more interesting with less just rookie mistakes out of the gate. So I hope people are enjoying this format. Let me know on that too. If you think this is just a dumb idea and you hate it, so be it. I don't have to do that. I just wanted to get something out that lets people see a little bit about a nation, but I'm not comfortable yet saying like this is a guide. I know what I'm talking about, because I'm not that prideful. Even if I'm building the Tower of Babel here, I know my limits. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know how you like it, and I look forward to seeing you on the stream.